I think most of us that get into real estate investing have kind of the goal of getting to like six figures a year, right? That's kind of like the first like vanity metric of like, wow, that'd be awesome. Well, today I'm doing an interview with my buddy Dalwin on how during COVID, when a lot of people were making excuses not to invest in real estate, he did a single flip that paid him over $100,000 in profit, like net to him into his bank account. Let's walk through this deal as well as several lessons he learned that are applicable to anybody that's wanting to flip a house. Let's dive right in. I would love to keep bringing quality people like this interview I'm about to show you to you. So all I'm going to ask in return is that you like the video and subscribe if you want to learn how to make six figures on a single deal. Dalwin, I'll kind of kick it over to you, man. Why don't you kind of walk us through like where you got the deal from, how closing went, all that.
Yeah, awesome, man. Thanks for having me on. So we got the deal actually from a wholesaler. It was actually our very first time dealing with a wholesaler. We during that time we started, pivoting because COVID just hit, right? So things were a little shut down for a while, and things started opening up. But the market was already scorching hot. Anything on the MLS was just
Where are you at, by the way, for anybody who's watching this?
Northern Jersey,
Cool.
New Jersey. Yeah. So this particular property was in Clifton, New Jersey, which is a super desirable area up here where we're at. And we decided to just, do things a little differently, start trying to work and network with wholesalers, and got on their mailing list, on their email blast, and they blasted a deal out that was literally from our house 10 minutes away, right in our backyard. Went to go check it out, and long story short, we locked it up.
So did you
And
end up like paying their asking? Did you beat them down on price at all? Did you have to like look at a bunch of like non-deals before you found one that made sense?
yeah, no, so I mean, this particular wholesaler, he was sending a whole bunch of other deals, and they weren't in our neck of the woods, and even if they were, they just didn't make sense for us. But this particular one, since it was so close, I decided to go take the trip over there and check it out. He listed it for 222, and had a bunch of people there for that hour viewing. He must have had like 10, 15 people.
Did the old group showing?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and it was funny. The owner was there too, which was pretty interesting. The
Oh,
seller,
that's always so weird. Like, I'm
yeah.
the cash buyer. Here's a bus full of people.
But I use that. To my advantage, and I started asking the owner a bunch of questions about the house. Here in Jersey, underground oil tanks are huge. So that was the first thing I asked him. Like, does the house have an underground oil tank? No, we removed it, 20 years ago. Great, perfect. So we got to tour the house. And long story short, there was a bidding war, obviously, with 10 to 15 people there, and somebody actually had it at 230,000. And then I text the guy. I was like, how about 232? And he goes, if you can send the EMD in the next, hour, it's yours. So I literally just stopped what I was doing, wired it over, sent over the confirmation. Mind you, this is the first time dealing with a wholesaler. So I was like, I don't even know what's happening right now.
What'd you put down in EMD?
$5,000.
And you sent that, for anybody watching, to the title company, not just to this guy's pocket, right?
Yes, it was a title company that they do a lot of business with. I did a quick little like 10-minute research on that title company and sent it over and locked down the deal. And that was it.
Awesome. So a little bit of competition on it. It sounds like you just beat out the other guy, which
Yeah.
a lot of the times is what it comes down to, especially in kind of that like, if they have a bidding war, it's really like money is going to be what gets the deal done, like money or how fast you can close or how easy you're going to be to work with or whatever.
Right.
How did closing go? What did
Yeah.
that look like?
So closing was interesting because, like I mentioned before, we were in the middle of COVID. So we went with hard money, right?
Okay.
But
If you don't mind me asking, what'd you pay?
so we ended up paying. So that's right. So when it came to during that time, hard money lenders at first were like shut down. They weren't lending, and then they started creeping back up, but their terms were just through the roof. So we went with a local hard money lender. They wanted us to put down 25% down for the deal. So we did 25% down. They charged us 2 points, 10% interest only. and some junk fees, processing fees, and all that stuff.
I mean, 2 in 10 is pretty typical though, so that's not terrible.
Yeah, but before COVID, I was getting 1 in 8,
Yeah.
1 in 9. So
Which that's almost private money rates.
at that point, right? Exactly. But the one caveat with them was that they were requiring an interest reserve. They needed at least 6 months at the closing table of all of your interest payments. So we were able to negotiate with them to waive that for us. One thing that we didn't realize though was that when we thought they were waiving it, they were actually putting it on the back end of the loan. So it was kind of like a second mortgage in a sense. Again, these are things that now we know going forward. These are things to really check to make sure we're getting, we're not getting into something that we're not fully aware of. But and then after close, once we close and we realized, oh, there's a second mortgage. Well, I mean, the numbers still make sense. We went ahead and closed. The house was supposed to be vacant. The wholesaler told us, yeah, no, the lady upstairs, she's going to be leaving a couple days before closing. We take full responsibility for that, because at the end of the day, we should have inspected. There's a saying, you inspect what you expect, right? We didn't inspect what we were expecting to be buying. And in this case was a vacant 2-family house. So when we close, I drive up to the property. I have keys to the first apartment, open up, no questions asked. The keys to the second floor, they don't open at all whatsoever. So I call the wholesaler. I was actually in touch with the owner as well, because they had to move some other stuff out as well. And then the owner was like, no, she's not leaving. I thought I told the other guy this, and I was like, well, now we got to deal with that. So yeah, that was rough. That was rough.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of the times you'll hear one thing and then you'll find out something else after it closes. Like I tell buy and hold landlords, like the biggest thing I've learned from buying tenant occupied properties is they'll tell you, oh, this is the best resident ever. They've never missed a payment. They pull the weeds like on their hands and knees on Saturdays. You close and they're like, yo, this guy hasn't paid me in like 4 years. And it's like, oh, okay. That would have been helpful. So this was
we were told there was a lease in place. It was all a verbal agreement. It was a mess.
And for anybody who doesn't think this way, it's my understanding, New Jersey isn't very landlord right friendly.
Not at all.
Okay. I figured they were a little bit more like, well, why can't they stay for free on your dime?
No, New Jersey is a tenant friendly state, and COVID, with all the moratoriums, just made it that much more difficult. So
any other like takeaways or anything else you guys did that you think is helpful for somebody watching this?
Takeaways, I would say, it's like I said before, man, inspect what you expect. Wholesalers will say one thing, and this is not to say like all wholesalers are bad. Like do your research. Like do your due diligence. If the wholesaler is telling you no, the house is going to be vacant, well, if you're standing firm and saying I'm not going to buy it until it's vacant, then stand firm, or just figure out a way where you're not dishing out so much money to get that particular family out.
I don't know if we mentioned, you had that lady in there. How'd you get her out?
We did cash for keys. And we gave her about like 45 days to leave. She was a senior citizen. I was dealing with her, but then I was dealing with her 2 children. It cost us a lot, man. It cost us a lot. It cost us about $5,000 to get her out.
Dude, I hate the principle of cash for keys.
No.
Like your instance makes a little bit more sense. It's a tenant, but like the whole like tenant falls behind on rent and you like bribe them to leave.
Yeah.
It just feels like rewarding bad behavior to me. Like that. And then like it keeps the eviction off their record so they can go and do it to the next guy kind of a thing. I get it. I mean, I've done it, especially on like flips and stuff when you just need somebody out. But I think that's, helpful for people to realize it's not always like, oh, here's $500 in a candy bar. Sometimes it hurts a little bit to get them out.
Well, and the original plan was we didn't want to, just get her out. She was a good paying tenant, and understanding her side of her point of view, she wasn't even really told that the house was going to be sold either. That's the thing. We were told that she was. So that's where the communication and inspect what you expect, right? So our original plan was, hey, you know what? Give us the apartment. We'll renovate it. We'll make this place look unbelievably nice for you. If we do intend on selling it, we'll lock you into a lease. That way, you don't have to go through this ever again. So we were actually trying to look out for her. Yeah. But she was like, you know what? Let me just get out of here. And then her children got involved and was able to get,
She's like, but pay me.
But
Let me just dip for $5,000, right?
pretty much.
Very, very cool, man.
Yeah, no, we negotiated that down too because they wanted an obscene amount of money.
So. What'd they want originally?
$10,000.
Bro, can you imagine just like, it's like, get out of my house, yeah. Right?
They came at us with 10, and I said, how about 1?
There you go. Yeah, you got to anchor them real low.
Right, like I anchored them super low, but eventually we ended up in the middle. And in the grand scheme of things, it worked out because, with COVID, the eviction moratoriums, that's a major turnoff for a lot of first-time home buyers, or anybody really. We wanted the house to be vacant so that when we put it on the market, it was a blank canvas for whoever wanted to buy it. So
okay, so on this deal, you mentioned you put 25% down with the hard money lender.
Yes.
Do you know what your total like out of pocket was roughly?
Yeah, out of pocket was a little over $75,000 between down payment, closing costs, and everything. Yeah.
Okay, so for anybody who's doing math, $75,000 out of pocket. But on the back end, you ended up, what was your actual net? What'd you make on this?
After everything was said and done, we made, I want to say net about $110,000.
Okay. So turned 75,000 into 110 and got your 75 back. I mean, doubling your money. And how long did the deal take?
We bought it in May. That's a good question, actually. We bought it in May. We submitted permits because we were doing a bunch of work. The permits took about 9 weeks to get processed because COVID. So we didn't get the ball rolling until like September-ish. Okay. We put it on the market around the holiday season, which, for anyone in real estate, that's the slow season. But I don't know, we feel like COVID actually helped us because all of that downtime in the beginning of the year kind of ramped up towards the end of the year. And we listed it towards the end of the year. It must have been, I think it was like December 22nd or 23rd. So from the time that we purchased the house to the time that we sold it, it's about 8 months.
I mean, to be able to double your money every 8 months, that's more than doubling. It's like 150% bump. No complaints there. Yeah. So you'd mentioned it was a duplex. Did you guys keep it a duplex? Did you convert it to a single family?
No, it was a 2-family. The previous owner years ago, they held that property for like over 60 years. It was originally a single family, which they then converted to a duplex, a 2-family. But what we ended up doing was we just did a gut renovation on the first floor primarily. The layout was just super funky. It was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. Kitchen was all the way towards the back and it was like a box. It was so tiny. The basement was humongous, but it was unfinished. Out here in Jersey, people love their finished basements. And if there's a full bathroom down there, I mean, you're golden. So what we did was after submitting the permits and all the architectural drawings, we added a 3rd bedroom upstairs on the first level of the first apartment. And we moved the kitchen from the back of the house to the front of the house. So it was like an open concept living room, kitchen, dining room. And then we finished the basement, did a bathroom down there as well with a little storage unit back there. And then the second floor was a 1-bedroom, 1 bath. We just did a brand new kitchen, brand new bathroom, LVP, paint, new light fixtures, and that was it.
Okay. What was your total construction cost?
I'm sorry?
What was your total construction cost?
So our original budget was $60,000 and we went over budget by about 25. So It was all in about $85,000. Yeah.
I mean, dude, for everything you got done though, 85 doesn't sound bad.
Yeah. No, we did a new roof. We painted the siding, new gutters, new soffits and fascia. I mean, the house came out beautiful. It came out really, really nice.
So let's talk about what'd you list it for when you were all done?
So when we were all done,
what were you into it for? What'd you list it for?
We were into it about I want to say we were into it about 80, 85-ish around there, all in.
So you were into it for like low 300s?
Yeah. So we listed it at 399. We listed it at 399, which at first it seemed like it was a good price to list at. Man, we got over 100 showings. We got over 50 offers, and then we had to do a highest and best. All the offers that were coming in were, conventional, FHA. And what we did was we did a best and final 12 o'clock noon on, I believe it was like Tuesday of that week. And somebody came in and said, you know what? I'll offer you 500. I'll offer you, not only will I offer you 500, I'll put $100,000 down. I'll waive my inspection and I'll waive my appraisal. I said, where do I sign?
Yeah. Sold.
No brainer. That was a no brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always fun when you have one that you throw on the market and it's just like piranhas where you're just
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, come to daddy.
It was crazy though, because at first this was at like we put it on the market and then we got like this crazy snowstorm out here. And our realtor ended up taking a trip down to Florida to Miami. Nobody was expecting this snowstorm to come. Next thing you know, the keys are missing, right? Because there's 1,000,001 showings. One of the windows was broken somehow. I don't know how that happened. So we decided we had to shut it down for like 12 hours just to like figure out what in the world's happening. Fixed the window, found the keys, changed the locks, put it back up on the market for another 12 hours. People went crazy with it. And, the rest was history.
That's awesome. So one thing that I'm noting about this for anybody who's watching this, like if you're looking for deals with these kinds of like thicker margins on them, oftentimes you're going to have kind of these bigger profit deals when you do kind of more that value add stuff. Like finishing out a basement can be huge depending on your market. We don't really finish out basements in Indiana because they all get wet. So it's kind of just like you're asking for disaster. But I know some friends in Nashville of mine that do that all the time. So it sounds like that's a good takeaway. What other like takeaways do you have for somebody who's watching this that's like, okay, if Dalwin made 6 figures, I can. What should they be looking for? Anything you guys think you did that boosted this to a 6-figure profit deal?
Absolutely, man. Because right before we got into the deal, we looked at the market, we determined the ARV, and we saw what was selling. And but when we closed, we had an ARV about 425, 435. Granted, we did close a couple months after we actually. We sold it after a couple months after we closed. So obviously the market was still heating up. So that helped us in our advantage. But we did do a lot of things. We did brand new electric. The whole house was knob and tube. And it's a 2-family house. So there was only one electric meter. So whoever ended up buying the house was going to pay electricity for the entire house. Looking at it from a homeowner's perspective, even from an investor's perspective, I wouldn't want to be paying electricity for an entire house. So that was number one. Number two.
So did you guys do separately metered?
Yeah. So here, what we did here was we separated each floor. And then what we did for the common areas, we added an additional meter. Cool. So in case an investor ends up buying the house, every floor pays their own electricity. The owner pays the common area, and that's it. But what we also did was the house only had one gas meter, meaning that the owner was paying for all of the gas as well. We separated the gas. We added a second gas meter. That way, each apartment pays for their own cooking gas, their heat. There's nothing complicated there. It took a little more effort, and it did take a little more money to make it happen, but the end result was well worth it. So
yeah, man, that's super smart because you're totally right. Like those are some things you probably could have left and probably would have saved you $15,000-$20,000. Yeah. But that's the stuff that if I'm an investor looking at a multifamily, those are some of my first questions. Who pays what? How is it metered? Is common area separate? Because otherwise you get into these really messy leases of like trying to bill back utilities. And what if somebody else has people in town? It's not fair that it goes to the other. And maybe you bill it by person who lives there. It gets real kind of clunky.
It gets real clunky, real sticky, real messy. And we're investors. I do this full time. So I'm always looking at where's the value add opportunity here. We added an additional bedroom. We finished the basement. We changed the layout, so made it more functional. But the utilities was a major part of that. And once we made that decision, we honestly feel that that's what possibly played a role in bringing that price all the way up. So
yeah, no man. So a couple other just things I noticed. You took on a big project, and a lot of the times like houses with knob and tube, more risk often has the potential for more reward. You went over budget by a lot. Like I was trying to think like percentage wise what that breaks down to, but on the flip side, like it did pay for itself. Yeah. I've got a flip I'm doing right now, and we decided to spend like an extra $15,000 than we'd initially planned on. Sure. But our thought process, we ended up moving walls, new HVAC, new roof, new kitchen, all that stuff. But we're also trying to time it of like, hey, if Biden gets this first time home buyer tax credit through, so this isn't a perfect neighborhood for that. Right. And, comps right now are like 205 to 215 on this one I've got, and I'm going to end up all into it for about 170.
Okay.
And I think we're seeing stuff start to pick up already of like
Nice.
in Pensacola right now, there's not really anything listed for like below 250. That's
Okay.
like nice. A lot of it's pretty sketchy. So, you know, sometimes taking some of those risks on of a bigger project, or, you know, maybe doing a little bit of a nicer rehab than you'd initially planned for makes sense, as long as it's like value add stuff. If you're looking at, maybe I put in a $20,000 bathroom, you don't need it. But if it's, you know, separately metering, or we also updated electrical, you know, some of those things that's like, if we don't do this, it's going to come up on inspection. We're going to hear it as kind of a recurring complaint. So I think you did a good job of kind of cutting off some potential barriers for somebody wanting that property, like the knob and tube wiring. That's huge prior to even putting it on the market. So well done there.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, no, we worked hard on this one. We did all, you know, quartz countertops, you know, black fixture, subway tile. I mean, shout out to our buddy of ours, Mitch Patter, over in CCF.
Mitch Pater.
Pater. Sorry,
you're fine.
Yeah, no, he was the one that you know, I follow him on IG, and he did a design where he put a kitchen, instead of cabinets, he put shelves in the kitchen. And I reached out to him. He told me exactly where to get them, and turned out beautiful. So
yep, we're doing that. We're doing a couple exposed shelves in our flip right now, and it's a way cheaper price point. I think people will like, oh my gosh, so it'll go well. And we actually did a video with Mitch on design that I'll link to above for anybody that wants to check that out. Dalwin, for folks that are watching this that are like, hey, this dude seems super down to earth, because you are, or they're in your market and they want to send you deals, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I'm really active on Instagram. My handle's DGAR31, so DGAR31 down.
Perfect. Yeah, and we'll throw it up on screen and make it real easy for everybody.
And then our company, Blue Anchor Properties, on IG as well. That's it.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, we'll throw both of those up for you. Man, I appreciate you being willing to hop on and do this. A lot of people get a little weird when they're talking about money, especially like during COVID time, how we made 6 figures on one deal. That should probably be my title for this. But like, you know, you did a really good job on this flip, man. Thing turned out looking like $1 million, and I think you guys earned every single dollar with the risk you took on here. So thanks for hopping on and doing this one with you. Love to have you back on your next 6-figure deal.
I look forward to it.
Awesome, man. I don't know about you guys, but I love having real estate entrepreneurs on to do interviews for you where they're super honest of like, hey, these are the mistakes that I made. Super appreciate Dalwin taking the time out of his arguably very busy schedule to walk us through the lessons on this deal, as well as kind of the value add opportunities you should be looking for when you're analyzing properties. Be sure to like and subscribe. We'll talk to you guys next time.